In the idea of reflecting here, I was thinking back to when I was in elementary school, just the idea of, Jesus is the reason for the season, right? That the phrase has been around for a long time, and I remember one of the first times I heard about it was because I was given a bracelet, kind of like the one you guys were handed out tonight, that said, Jesus is the reason for the season, as a kid, and I wore it to elementary school. And this kid, this other kid at school, he looked at me, and he's like, what does that mean? Why does it say that? And I was like, well, Jesus was born on Christmas. That it's his birthday, right? And so that's the point of Christmas. And the kid said, no, getting presents is the point of Christmas. And Santa was more important than Jesus because he brought the presents. And I was like, well, Jesus lets us have presents on Christmas still, so it's still fine. And he said, well, if it was my birthday, I would want the presents, not other people. So that doesn't even make sense. And my little third grade me was like, this kid's got a point. But I couldn't let him win, so I said, you're a duty head. And, I didn't really understand what it meant to be a Christian, at third grade. But, things escalated from there. Some names were thrown out, Cottonhead and Ninny Muggins and whatnot, things that could barely be repeated today. But I do have a better understanding today of what it means that Jesus is the reason for the season. And, it is the time of year that we celebrate Jesus' birth, and we do so in family, we do it in community, we do it by giving and receiving of gifts. And as Victoria said, one of the best gifts that we could ever receive is the gift of Jesus. And we're wrapping up our Advent series here on Christmas Eve, celebrating this time, and we've been trying to slow down in the busyness of what happens during the Christmas season and reflect on the coming of Jesus. And not only on this first coming that he came as a baby that we're celebrating in this season, but how when he comes a second time and brings his kingdom, it's going to change our lives forever. And we're celebrating that as well and reflecting on that in this time. But, when we think about Jesus being the reason for the season, right? He came with reason. He's not just the reason that we celebrate, but there was a reason and why he came. And one of his first things that he taught, that he ever, in his ministry spoke about, was this reason. And we find it in the New Testament where it shares the story of Jesus in the Gospels. And we find it in Luke chapter 4. And just like most of the Jews at that time, he would go to the temple and he'd participate in the services that they were having. And often, being a rabbi, he would get up and he would read from the scriptures. And there's only a few times throughout scripture that it actually points out what Jesus read when he went to the temple. Often it said he went to the temple and he participated, he prayed, he read. But only a few times does it actually say this is what he read. And one of the very first times, Luke 4, 16 through 21, that he goes to the temple after he starts his ministry, we find what he read. And it says there, when he came to the village of Nazareth, his boyhood home, he went as usual to the synagogue on the Sabbath. He stood up to read the scriptures. The scroll of Isaiah the prophet was handed to him. And he unrolled the scroll, and he found the place where this was written. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, for he has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim the captives will be released, and that the blind will see, that the oppressed will be set free, and that the time of the Lord's favor has come. He rolled back up the scroll, he handed it back to the attendant, and he sat down. It says all the eyes in the synagogue, much like some sort of room similar to this, looked at him and was like, that's it? That's all you're going to say about this? It says, then began to speak to them. The scripture you've just heard has been fulfilled this very day. What Jesus read was a prophecy from hundreds of years before Jesus had even come to the earth and walked on it in a human form. About this coming Messiah, this person that would come and change everything for them. All the Jews sitting in that temple would have known about this. This is something they've been anticipating and looking forward to, and they have all these celebrations in looking forward to the Messiah. They would have had these scriptures memorized because they couldn't take it home, but I'm sure they read it often and knew about this coming of this sovereign Lord that was going to come and change everything. And all of a sudden, Jesus declares to them, I'm the one that's come. I've been anointed to do all these things. And we can actually look into Isaiah and read this same section of scripture, Isaiah 61, 1 through 2. It says, the Spirit of the sovereign Lord is upon me. For the Lord has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He sent me to comfort the brokenhearted and to proclaim that captives will be released and that prisoners will be freed. He has sent me to tell those who mourn that the time of the Lord's favor has come. Man, how crazy would that be? For Jesus to walk into like a room like this, get up and share a message and say, this is about me. I'm the one here to fulfill all these things. I'm the one you've been waiting for. And I believe that he is here today, that he's come and he's saying these very same things to you, that these are the reasons he came to earth, that he's here in this room today wanting to share this message and say, I'm here for you. If you feel poor, if you feel brokenhearted, if you need freedom, if you've been in mourning, this was Jesus' purpose. And I believe he's also left us this purpose to continue while we're on the earth, but that's for later. Not only did Jesus come with purpose, he came to earth for those specific people. And if your year's been anything like mine, or your last several years have been anything like mine, you're probably on that list somewhere. And so I want to look at those and see what Jesus says about that. What was his purpose in that? First, it says that he came for the poor. Now, this word poor there isn't just poor in financial terms, though I think that it could apply here as well. But what was being said was more of being poor in spirit. People who have realized that I'm lacking something inside of me. I don't have that richness to my life. I'm missing the depth. Sometimes that word's even translated over to the word meek.